Hi, and welcome to the Spokane County GOP Legislative Action Podcast. As always, I'm very privileged and grateful to be your host. I know that there is a ton going on with the party nationwide at the moment. We've got Super Tuesday just getting wrapped up. We've got a State of the Union tonight. We also have a lot of things going on here in the state of Washington. We're just getting to the closing of our first session, so we have a lot to unpack. Fortunately, I do have with us our resident expert on all this stuff and the head of the legislative action team, Mrs. Stephanie Brendan. Stephanie, welcome back. It's so good to have you again.
Hi, thank you, Jake. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So last week we had you on. We talked a lot about various different bills that obviously concerned a lot of our constituents in Spokane, but also people on the other side of the aisle too. There was a lot of concerning things from AI to gun reform and school choice type stuff. I mean, can you maybe fill us in a little bit about what happened on some of those bills? And for folks that didn't get a chance to watch that, could you maybe just touch in a little bit about on maybe a Cliff Notes version of what went down?
Sure. Yeah, we had several bills that we're really concerned about going through the legislative process and had many calls to action in our emails over the last several weeks. Initially they would go through the House and then they would go through the Senate or vice versa. So we highlighted a lot of the same bills over and over again. I think last week we were watching um, one was the operating costs in schools. I think we talked a little bit about that last week. That bill did pass. That was House Bill 2494. And with all the bond levies and the question marks around, the state of Washington having like one of the highest costs per students compared to all other states. I think the national average was around 14,000 a student, and in here in Washington we're more like 18,000 or more. I heard even up to 20,000 a student for costs. So to add another bill to add more costs for school, more taxpayer dollars, but unfortunately that one did pass. And it was interesting because it was a bipartisan bill, and a lot of Republicans did vote for that. So I think some of us are still scratching our heads on why why that went through so easy with students unenrolling, and yet we're going to spend even more money. So
Right.
that was one of them. Yep.
So that one did pass.
Yes.
And so I take it the governor is going to sign that one in. So that's something we'll have to look
Yep.
forward to, unfortunately.
Yes.
But
Yep.
has there been any bills maybe in this last one that we got lucky and maybe got shut down or?
Yeah, I wanted to. Another one, I think we might have talked about this one last week, is the healthcare marketplace bill. I believe I did mention that one because I have been very concerned. That was Senate Bill 5241. Again, Senate Bill 5241. And this is one that we were very concerned that hospitals, especially rural hospitals, faith based organizations, we're going to be required by the Attorney General office to control a lot of transactions, acquisitions, mergers, etc. But they would also control and require these places to provide not only abortion services but gender care services as well. Again, that's government overreach. We believe in limited government, but we're also very concerned how harmful that was going to be in especially rural communities and rural hospitals. So that one died I believe on it got to a floor. It was on the floor calendar, but it did not get passed. They ran out of time. So we can thank we have some blessings. Thank our lucky stars on that one for this year anyway. We'll have to watch for it. Possibly could come back next year.
Mhm. They often do. Um,
Mhm.
I guess my follow up to that one. I mean, obviously we've got some good and some bad. Finger on the pulse. This first session. Any big highlights or anything that we should be looking forward to in the next when everybody reconvenes? Anything coming up that you're particularly worried about? Just your general thoughts on this session and moving into the next one.
Sure. Well, the thing that I think was the most exciting and positive thing about this session is the initiatives, the Let's Go Washington initiatives that we all signed. Three of the six initiatives did get public hearings, and this last week of session, all three of them that had a public hearing also passed. So we can be very happy and celebrate that Initiative 2081 for parental rights, that gives more parental rights over the curriculum in schools and having transparency so that you can see what the curriculum's all about. And then Initiative 2111, that ensures that we will not have an income tax in the state of Washington. So that is the no income tax. Um, and then the other one was Initiative 2113, and that is the police pursuit. So there was a terrible bill that was passed last year that really restricted our police officers from pursuing criminals, and really just handcuffed our police. And we've seen the rampant crime as a result. This would restore police pursuit. So those are three that we really need to celebrate. I think that's probably some of the biggest news coming out of the session, and that was thanks to the grassroots and the voters and all the people
Mm.
that signed those initiatives and all of Let's Go Washington's efforts to push those forward. So that's a huge win
Oh, a
that I
tremendous win. I
definitely
mean,
want.
you got
Yeah,
to take your victories, especially in a super majority blue state like this. I mean,
yeah,
anything like that.
exactly.
It's always funny to me because you see what kind of happens when you take things into the from the legislators' hands into the voters' hands, and you put something on a
Mhm.
referendum. It's something that they've tried to do in the legislature for so long that just
Right.
doesn't resonate with the people.
Nope. And this was this was people signing those, and we got the hearings for three. Now, of course, the other three, what will happen because they didn't get a hearing, they will still go on the ballot in November. So obviously, the Democrats were not as excited about those three because they
Hmm.
didn't get hearings. So we're going to have to make sure that we put the word out and we make sure that the people really know what the positives of the other three initiatives are so that they'll vote yes on the ballot in November. And that was repealing the capital gains tax, the hidden gas tax, um, and the long term care tax. So, three more taxes. I think that's pretty easy to vote yes to repeal three more, three
Yeah,
more
I don't
taxes.
think too many people are gonna kick and scream about getting rid
Yeah.
of some
Yeah.
taxes.
Hopefully that's an easy win for us, but I know the Democrats will definitely fight that hard. I've already heard that they're going to, somehow spin it that we won't have as much funding for schools or something, but those don't have anything to do with the school funding. So
Right.
we'll
Despite
just
the
have.
increase in funding from the bill they just passed. So,
Right, exactly. We just got more operating
right.
costs with the bill 2494, in addition to the bonds and levies, that a lot of those are passing. So, yeah, so I think that that will be hopefully a win as well in November if everybody can turn out and make sure they vote.
Hmm.
So, and then for our local community, I do want to highlight one other positive. I'm just going to jump into House Bill 1899. And this was, you remember last year, Jake, when we had the wildfires, we had
Oh yeah,
elk
over
and
in Medical Lake area. That's near my
medical
district.
waste. Yeah, so some of our legislators, I know uh, Mike Volts and Jenny Graham and Suzanne Schmidt, were all fighting for this particular bill because it allows um, reconstruction of those lost homes based on the energy code previous to any new,
Mhm.
laws being passed. So, for example, if someone had their home heated with natural gas, they will still be able to replace that natural gas in that home. This is my understanding, anyways, and that this new bill that just passed that essentially bans us from using natural gas going forward in Washington state. That was House Bill 1589. That was another terrible bill that just passed, unfortunately. But the medical lake and the elk, those fires, those people will, basically be grandfathered in for
Right.
rebuilding their homes. So
Well,
I
and we've
think
seen
that
what
will be
happens, especially with this increase in regulations and this whole regulatory scheme. It's really hard for people to navigate that, and it's especially cumbersome when you're just getting past a freaking fire. So I mean, you
right.
got all your house, you got and belongings, you got to rebuild back. That's
Mhm.
already tough enough, and so
Yeah,
it's
and to have to jump through all the new construction hoops and added costs, of maybe other heating sources that are more expensive than natural gas, possibly. So, yeah, so that was a positive for sure out of this session.
well. I mean, it's good to hear. It's nice to see that some positives can be pulled out of this. I know oftentimes it feels like we're saying this bill's bad, this bill's bad.
Hmm.
But it's nice and a little heartwarming to see that we can work together on some of these issues. One last question for you before I let you go. Um, is there anything that folks should know about within the local party going on right now, or is there something coming up in the next early session that you really want to draw attention to, other than maybe those Let's Go Washington initiatives?
We do have the state convention coming up in April, so that will be. I believe it's the 18th through the 20th. And this year, the state uh, Republican Party convention is in Spokane. So, how convenient for us that we're already here. We don't have to worry about travel and hotels. We live here. But there will be a lot of people coming over from the other areas of the state to have our Republican Party convention, and we'll get to hear from the governor candidates, which would be Semi Bird and Dave Reichard. So that'll be exciting. We'll also be hearing from, with Kathy McMorris Rogers stepping down, there are several people that have thrown their name in the hat for the Congress position that she's going to be vacating. So that will be an exciting event, and I think hopefully people can buy your tickets and be there and maybe volunteer to help work the event. I'll definitely be there. We'll have a lot of delegates there, so that's exciting coming up here real soon.
Well, great. Thank you again for your time and giving us the down low on everything Spokane and Olympia. I guess we're going to take a little bit of a hiatus for the next few weeks because we are out of session, but I'm sure that we'll be having you back on if you're willing. For
Yes.
those of you listening, if this is something you want to get involved in, obviously we've got a lot going on in the state, especially with the things coming up in the Spokane GOP. If you want to go to any of these events or get involved, I encourage you to visit our website at SpokaneGOP.com. It's pretty obvious where you go from there. There's forums all over the place. So, with that, I just want to say thanks, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
All right. Thank you.